Hey, 6th grade, welcome to May 19th, 2020 Literacy Classwork. Your goal for today is that you will be able to understand the sound devices of repetition, rhythm, rhyme, and alliteration in poetry and how authors use those sound devices to add meaning by reading Robert Frost's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening and identifying Frost's use of sound devices. For your do now, we're going to loop back to yesterday's work to review theme and identity in slam poetry. Please read the example poem found and then decide what theme, message, or lesson might this author be trying to convey. Please include at least 2 to 3 complete, thoughtful sentences with at least one piece of textual evidence in your response. When you're done with your do now, you have 4 new vocabulary terms: rhyme, repetition, rhythm, and alliteration. Please review the definitions and examples carefully. When you're finished with that, you have 3 poems that you need to decide what kind of sound devices do they use. You have devices that you can drag and drop: rhyme, rhythm, repetition, or alliteration. Read the poem and then decide which one the poem uses, drag it, and drop it into the blank field. Then write, what literary device does this poem use, and quote the line. When you're finished, move on to the next slide. You have 3 practice poems to work on slides 6, 7, and 8. Then we'd like you to watch 3 slam poems, one by Phil Kay, one by Soli Raphael, and one by Harry Baker, and think about how do these authors use alliteration, repetition, rhythm, and rhyme to develop the emotions in their poems. When you're done with vocabulary practice, you move on to a little bit of background information about a famous poet named Robert Frost. Read this brief excerpt and then write, what is one thing you may have learned about Frost that might offer some insight into his poetry? When you're finished with that, you'll move on to a poem that's very famous called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Read the poem. You can listen to it if you like. Then listen to the video of Miss Bardis clapping out the syllables of each line. What does the rhythm of this poem sound like? And why do you think Frost chose to write his poem in this way? When you're finished with that, we'd like you to decide, what are some examples of repetition that Frost uses in the poem? What is the impact of that repetition, and how does it develop the theme? When you're finished with that, you have a mastery check that can be found in Edulastic, titled DL MC Module 2, Week 7. Make sure that you submit your work in Google Classroom, and as always, message us if you have questions or need help.